Breaking news. They're coming for the kids. But we're coming for them! Sisters broken badges flashing in the night. Knock down doors, no warrant, no right. Take the children, tear the families apart. Hide behind protection while you rip out the heart. Files fabricated, lies on the stand. Judges in their pocket, money changing hands. Parents screaming, cameras never show. The real abuse happens when the CPS shows. Scott ever standing, fighting Tennessee DCS. For separation, they tore the family from his chest. Placed on a registry, no charges, no crime. Blount County DCS crossing every line. Evers versus the state, lawsuit in federal court. Exposing the corruption, tearing that system apart. Years of battle, justice delayed, but not denied. A father's resolve with truth on his side. No mercy, no justice, just power unchecked. We expose the corruption, put them under the rack. Gunning for CPS, we won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every day, truth cuts like a blade. Gunning for CPS, your empire's gonna fail. We fight for the families, we fight for the free. CPS, your time is over. You'll see. Another case buried, another life destroyed. Numbers manipulated, stories over deployed. They call it protection, we call it abduction. State-sponsored kidnapping, legal corruption. Parents labeled unfit for daring to speak. Question the system and they label you weak. We document every raid, every lie, every theft. The resistance is growing, no more silent regret. No mercy, no justice, just power unchecked. We expose the corruption, put them under the rack. Gunning for CPS, we won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every day, truth cuts like a blade. Gunning for CPS, your empire's gonna fade. We fight for the families, we fight for the free. CPS, your time is over. You'll see. You took the innocent. You destroyed the home. Now the people are waking. And we're coming for your throne. No more silence. No more fear. The revolution starts right here. Gunning for CPS, we won't stop, we won't rest. Breaking news every single day. Gunning for CPS, your kingdom's gonna break. For every parent, for every child set free. CPS, we're gunning for thee. This is the podcast, Gunning for CPS, hosted by Scott Evers. Relentless in his fight, Evers versus Tennessee DCS. A father who refuses to yield, exposing every injustice, demanding accountability, reclaiming what was taken. The battle continues. Stay vigilant. The truth is our weapon. This is the reckoning. Blount County CPS. Your time has come! Gunner Evers rising, shadow in the fight. Blount County CPS stealing children in the night. No warrant, no warning, they crossed every line. Took his child away, tried to bury the crime. Fabricated files, twisted every truth. Placed him on a registry with no proof. Federal court they make. The system is shaken, the foundation starts to break. No more hiding, no more lies. The truth is coming, hear the battle cry. This is the reckoning. Gunner Evers bringing the pain. Blount County CPS, your empire's in flames. The reckoning. Justice finally calls your name. For every family broken, for every child torn away. The reckoning is here. There's hell to pay. There's hell to pay. Evers versus Blount lawsuit cutting deep, exposing corruption, secrets they can't keep. Years of separation, heart ripped from his chest. Yet he stands unbreakable, refusing to rest. No charges filed, but they branded him a threat. Now the court is watching, collecting their debt. Blount County, DC, yes, your days are numbered fast. The father's fight is real, this reckoning will last. No more hiding, no more lies. The truth is coming, hear the battle cry. This is the reckoning. Gunner Evers bringing the pain. Blount County CPS, your empire's in flames. The reckoning. Justice finally calls your name. For every family broken, for every child torn away. The reckoning is here. There's hell to pay. There's hell to pay. You came for the innocent. You destroyed the home. Now the reckoning rises, and you stand alone. No mercy. No escape. The people are awake.
I'm gonna pull the whole thing down. I'm gonna bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's gotta be biblical.
Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Gunning for CPS. I'm your host, Gunner, and who are we going to piss off today with our knowledge and information? Well, hopefully enough people to, we are starting to see the people wake up across the nation when it comes to everything constitutional, from Second Amendment rights to the family court cases. And there have been tons of filings and tons of decisions. And we're going to let you in on a few things. We're going to cover a few things tonight that deals with giving you that information, helping you to how to write, a little bit tonight. We'll give you a little insight on how to write some of your federal 1983 filings. And, it comes down to something simple. You can look at it. I always tell people, say, listen, go find a case that's similar to yours that's already been filed and won, and go look at it and how it's filed, how it's structured. But we're going to start things off with just something simple, especially for my people in Virginia. If you guys haven't been following the story in Virginia, the mayor, or not the mayor, but the governor of Virginia has signed off and trying to enforce local law enforcement to enforce unconstitutional orders that will basically get them killed if they try this. That I don't think this numbskull even understands what she's doing is not only unconstitutional, but it's an act of treason. I have spoken to several of my contacts in Virginia, and I am actually getting reports that they are working on articles of impeachment for the governor, as well as all the lawmakers that signed off and passed those unconstitutional bills as a violation of public trust, so on and so forth. And the fact that they are violating both the state's constitution as well as the federal constitution for impeachment. There's also been, now listen, there's been other people that are talking about this as well, like a twofold thing, that yes, there is talks of the militia rising up in Virginia to take a stand as we the people. And from my understanding, these are government or even law enforcement is not going along with this and fighting the governor, saying we're not going to enforce this because it is unconstitutional. Matter of fact, we have a little thing here for a little bit of information for you guys that we'll just, well, let's just share it to piss some people off today. Because, you know, people say, well, I have to comply. I have to comply. You know, comply. You get all that. See, that's why they come in gangs and in numbers. They won't come on you one-on-one or once again, or, well, I'll call back up this. Why? Because once again, it's a show of force. It's a show of power, but it doesn't mean it's lawful. Here, let me show the case law.
When they come, I will start my run. Start my run. I'll never be afraid. Thoughts ahead.
There it is, guys. There's your federal case law. And yes, the Supreme Court has backed that up. If you have an officer or a state official or anybody trying to force down something that is unconstitutional, you have the right to fight back, even if it means taking that person's life. That is exactly what the Virginia governor was trying to set up for law enforcement, to use them as an enforcement agency to come in and do her bidding or do her will. And that is not the way that this works. And she's got this thing, well, I have the majority of this, or I have this and that. Once again, this is not a democracy. This is a constitutional republic, and everything, policies, procedures, statutes, and codes in every single state must be constitutional. And everybody says, well, no, it's called the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution. And it explicitly says anything that is not lined up with the Constitution. As a matter of fact, the Supreme Court has gone even further than that, into including foundational documents within the idealism or within the spirit or the harmony of those things. Those are unconstitutional, and they must be. If they're not, then they shouldn't. And if you've got people pushing those particular things, they are an enemy of the people and of the Constitution. I'm saying it because it's what the Constitution says. What are you going to do? Come after me for what the Constitution says? Good luck. Because that's the thing you're supposed to be doing. Didn't you take an oath? Yes, it's a violation of oath. And that was the other thing that they're bringing up. So things are getting a little heated in Virginia very, very, very fast. People have had enough. And their child trafficking problem with CPS in Virginia is disgusting. People have had it. It's just a matter of time before we start seeing things here in the United States like what we're seeing over in Italy or over in Ireland. But the problem that the big issue is we're not, one of these other countries where we're going out there and we're doing this, that. Oh no, they will hit the streets with their Second Amendment, which makes you question, within the temperament of everything that they understand and the period of the nation, that these rulings with the Supreme Court are actually giving back rights that were stolen by some of these other cases of saying, hey, this is unconstitutional. And basically arming the people of saying, here, you can have forward reset triggers. Here, you can have this. You can, the magazine ban is bullshit, unconstitutional. Going through this and waiting periods and all this other stuff, unconstitutional. The recent rulings in the past couple of weeks here has shot down about 90% of the red flag laws. And here comes Virginia with even more stringent. It's like, no, you should have. Once again, if you guys follow me on Facebook, I addressed this of saying, why didn't the Attorney General actually say, hey, we've got a ruling coming out. We're waiting on SCOTUS to do this, and we better wait before we do something illegal enough to probably get our necks stretched for treason. And the people are over this stuff of people breaking the laws, getting a slap on the wrist and everything else. People are to the point now, they want blood. They want somebody to be executed for treason or hung for treason to show we aren't messing around. And they're not doing it, let alone they're not doing it for people that are actually getting caught, which ends up turning out to be people that get caught doing pedophilia shit. and or there's another name when they get older. People say, well, pedophilia is this. No, there is a classification. Pedophilia is you like infant, this and that, and then as they go to it's like prepubescent. But there's classifications for this thing now. It's not a one size fits all. So we've got to remember those things. And I was a guest on another show that actually there's a lady that takes and does training both nationally and internationally on these subject matters and how those go along and gets into the psychology of what makes these people kind of tick and what causes this and what goes on. Huge amount. One thing we definitely want to do tonight, and I don't know if you guys have, I'm sure if you follow me here, TikTok, a couple other platforms, this and that. And once again, guys on TikTok, hello guys on TikTok world, give us all the love and everything else you can. Please feel free to comment. If you can't comment there, you can always check us out on YouTube, and those seem to come through a whole lot better. I don't know why, but sometimes in the lives, I haven't seen anything on the program we use that comes through and says, hey, I'm here on TikTok. I don't see it. So if you guys are out there in TikTok, make a comment and see if it comes up. We'll run a little test and then send me a DM. Say, hey man, I've made a comment on your live. I just don't know if some of those things go through. But let's go back to this. That in the past couple of days, we've had some people. We had a gentleman on Father's Day, a couple others. And just recently, the other day, this is a young lady that I've spoken to several times on her case. She's just over in North Carolina, the next state over. But here we'll go ahead and share this right here. And Miss Lay, from my understanding, has taken her life over the things with family court. Is Jessica Lay. We want to take a moment to remember her, and especially her son that is now without a mother, because she was separated, but now not only separated, the possible hope of return of even one day, even after they're 18, even if it comes to that, to reconnect with mom, whatever it may be, that's not the case. That's never going to happen for this young man again. So let's keep that in mind. Guys, this is why we push so much of being positive, lifting each other up, to make sure that, this battle with CPS and the mental battle and the spiritual battle that goes through it, it wears down on people. And yes, it does cause mass depression. And you've seen people pop up, fight, but then they get to a point, it's just so low. And then they stand there all alone. That's the other thing is the isolation. And not everybody does very good in isolation. And even though we talk here on this show, or it's on Facebook or other social media platforms, that's not always the case. It's something personable, to check in on people, see how they're doing. And this is why I encourage you guys, make sure you're doing that for those that are in your group and this and that, those people that you can reach out to, at least a good word. Hey man, don't give up hope. There's things to give. And like I said, bouncing off of that, we've made some pretty much clarifications. One, as far as to date, I am the only person with a filed case in regards to Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2 as a constitutional question. That there were some other advocacy groups that say we're going to file this on a certain date and it was supposed to be this month. There is nothing on the record, let alone that particular person got that information from me. That was not an original idea. That was something I was having a conversation with somebody else. It was overheard and then somebody ran with it. And now I'm going to go do this and that. That's not the way this works. No, you don't go straight to SCOTUS. SCOTUS is a form of the appellate court. In other words, if it's something that serious that they feel the appellate court shouldn't handle, this is something that there's very complicated, in-depth questions or things that need to be addressed. That's when SCOTUS will step in and go, now we've heard this, we are making an absolute ruling to where there's no misunderstanding. We're going to be extremely clear on this. And they do a very good job of explaining that and the reasoning behind that. But one thing I have learned on about SCOTUS and the way that they do things and the way that they demand the lower courts to do things is when they're ruling or trying to, in the federal court, which is the only court that has jurisdiction to interpret the federal court. Your state court does not have any jurisdiction on anything federal or constitutional. Let's make that clear. So make sure that that's clear in your filings, especially in your federal filings, that you're establishing jurisdiction and why the federal court only has jurisdiction and why they're supposed to do it. Hello, Miss Debbie. Good to see you tonight. But going through in that same thing with your 1983s and your federal filings, I've looked over so many people's stuff, and it's just like you can't get the emotion out of it. I can't stress that enough, guys. Do it like a criminal case file, because that's basically what you're doing. Is you're filing a criminal case in a civil court of saying these crimes happened, and I'm here to, this, and that, and here's the evidence of that. It can lead into a criminal case. Yeah, you can actually file paperwork with the federal court that you want the evidence and the hearing and the notes and everything else to have a criminal referral to the Department of Justice or Homeland Security or whoever it needs to go to for the criminal aspects of these things for charges. You're basically saying, what we discovered during this case, I am pressing criminal charges against all, whether it be state or federal, and then the state the federal court kind of figures it out and they file appropriately and turn it over and say, hey, you must do this, and then you have federal oversight. That ends up happening with that. Hey, turn these things over, but you need to notify the court to make sure you guys are doing something. This kind of ties their hands compared to just filing, with this case or doing this or doing that. That's the federal court saying you're going to do it and then report back to me and I want to make sure you've done your job. It's a checks and balances system, for the criminal side. It's something you can do. But when you're writing these things and you're going through your complaint, the easiest way is, one, establish your jurisdiction as clear as a bell. And think of it this way. Don't look at it to win. Look at it and cover everything to lose. What does that mean? That means cover all the gaps, close all the loopholes on them. Second, and just so we're clear, if you keep it about constitutional and fraud and some of these other things Rooker versus Feldman doesn't even apply. Not at all. And can Rooker and versus Feldman apply to, well, my case, I'm looking to have them do this incorrect? Yeah, if it was a due process violation, absolutely. They can determine that it is void ab initio. Or they never had jurisdiction to hear the case. There's another issue. These are key aspects that you look at, but when you're filing in your complaint, it's simple. Use the format like they do for criminal. Let me put it to you this way. You've got a specific crime that you want to talk about. Hey, they violated my things of due process. Well, you have to name the people, the actors, and how you were done. And then you have to explain within that one thing of how it affected you, of how it caused you loss or damage, whether it was bodily, mental, this, and that. Why? Because that goes into those calculations for, okay, we've got so much for punitive damages. And there's one thing I'm going to explain to you guys. Don't always put everything on paper. And everybody says, wait, what do you mean, Gunner? Don't put stuff on paper. It's real simple. Make sure that you save something for court, and understand you're not going to go into, well, I'm going to file everything. Well, okay, what are you going to do in court? Go over the paperwork to make sure you do that. Well, that's 101. Do you have any surprises? Don't tip your hand to everything. Is there some things that'll come out during questioning? Because a lot of people don't know that if you find out things during the questioning process while you're in court, that now you've discovered there's a new charge or a new thing, you can take it, stop, Your Honor, according to this testimony, this particular thing is done that we were unaware of until we got the questions answered, or so on and so forth during the court. So we'd like to, Your Honor, in the next so many hours, I'll make sure that I have an amended thing to include this now that we've discovered this, because it's another charge. It's another part of your civil case. Hey, here's another crime. Just keep that structure, man. And then your exhibits, when you're doing your exhibits, don't overload it. The idea is to get into court. Once you're in and the basis or the meat and potatoes of your case is in there, then you can add all the other stuff. You can always go back and amend. That's the other thing too, on your documents, your filings and everything else, your notices. your motions, everything else. Always make sure you put at the end of the thing to kind of cover your butt is I reserve the right to amend, change, or anything else at any given time. There's a phrase that goes in there. You can look it up, and it's used, and then that way you can't get kicked out or saying, "Listen, we're not going to allow you to amend or anything else." No, it's in my filing. I have the ability to do that at any given time. Now you can't kick me out. You have to let me amend. So that closes that loophole real fast. Jesse, and once again, it's not legal advice. This is just for knowledge and educational purposes only. And this is something that you'll find out is if you study enough of cases and case law, so on and so forth, that you'll run into this same thing. And it's not that hard of a discovery when you just go, oh, wow, can't believe they took and did that, or that's real simple. Second off, you're in federal court, you're not in state court. There is nothing wrong with quoting. Matter of fact, it's a powerful tool that you can take and quote a sitting member of SCOTUS that has written books, speeches, anything else. You can use these as evidence to say, listen, SCOTUS has said this is the way the lower courts are going to operate. You can bind the lower court of saying, now you have to follow this. Like, for example, how do we interpret the Constitution? This is SCOTUS's view and directive to all lower courts. And I'm going to summarize it real simple. It says what it means, and it means what it says, as clear as day. No other interpretation like that. That's the way we're going to do it. If we need to go back to the ideals or the concepts and everything else, we're going to refer to the Federalist Papers. We're going to refer and understand too, we're also going to take into the harmony also of the Declaration of Independence. Because why? That's our political stance, is the Declaration of Independence. You will not. The Constitution is the contract that binds. It says you will not cross this line. But for some reason, we became soft as Americans and didn't hold the hard line that should have been held. It should have been taught. And how dare these people even come to that? To follow the Constitution. And we even have states passing codes and statutes and policies and procedures that are not constitutional. And the way that they run this shit, I mean, literally, is catch me if you can. They will keep doing illegal stuff until they get caught because it's their chance to make money. Bottom line. It's a way to create revenue. And they're not supposed to. States are not supposed to have all this power. They're more supposed to live and live free. If you want to interact with people and you're in the state, you're supposed to be doing it in commerce or under contract law. Well, let's attack that. Let's address that. What is contract? What do you mean contract law, Gunner? Yes, even when you're filing your cases and everything else, go look up and study contract law. Why? Because that's what has to be. Show me the contract. Well, it says here, or we assume this, then you have to have full disclosure. I needed to know there was a possibility of when CPS came around and this, that's supposed to be a voluntary service, that I run the risk of being TPR'd from my children. Did you disclose that? Nope, that's breach of contract. Now everything's null and void. Even the signature or anything else you have, boom, gone. You can attack it that way. And you can go in the state and there's no argument because show me where I contracted with them, because aren't they voluntary? Oh, well, they're this, they're this. So well, we're gonna address that too. And another constitutional question, and you guys are gonna love this one, is dealing with CPS and your local sheriff. Now, let me explain the difference. CPS are appointed actors. Okay, we don't vote them in, we don't take them out. This and that. They work for the state. This is what they do. They're an extension of the executive branch of government, the governor. Here's the problem. You can't take away something the people have elected for somebody to do within an election over an appointment. What do you mean? The very fact that what they're doing, they have stolen, or the states have empowered CPS to do investigation and to do this and to do that. And if you look at every state's code, child abuse and neglect and those type of things are a criminal code within your state code. Does civil have some? Yes. But the requirements to use them means that a crime has to have been committed. This is why you're going into civil court, because, and when I tell you to file it like a criminal code, and this is the reason why when you have a criminal referral and how this has been done in several cases when you study this, is you're giving them enough evidence when it's turned over to go straight to the grand jury and have them indicted. That's when you file, and then the rest of your case, you prove it. Now they're going to use the rest of your civil case, so on and so forth, to go through here. Well, guys, it doesn't matter, especially when it comes to criminal acts, especially by government representatives. That goes that thing. Now, some of the other things that we will cover, we're going to cover a lot of things. We've got a lot of constitutional questions that are going to be filed. And once again, you guys turn around, oh, well, he's going to do it. No, we are not going for case law. Everybody says, what do you mean? That's not our objective. Our objective is to set precedents. What do you mean? Yes, it will establish case law, but we wanted to establish precedents like Marbury versus Madison. You can never overturn it, and you must follow it. And understanding, once you connect the dots, it's not hard to do the RICO stuff, guys. It's really not. Once you take and get through things like the MOUs and several other things showing how they cooperate with each other. If you guys take a watch out, MOUs are inter-office memorandums of understanding, MOU, memorandum of understanding, and it tells how CPS and the law and the district attorney and all these different agencies, this and that, all work together. That's called RICO. They're supposed to work independently, not cooperatively. They're independent for a reason. Now you've got a separation of powers. Why? You've overstepped the bounds. When you took those things away from the sheriff's office and then you did this, and they usually don't have an oath in a lot of states, so on and so on. Now you're looking at, imitation of a police officer. That's a serious crime. Well, the state said, I don't give a shit what the state said. We, the people, voted. You can't override a vote and take away powers from somebody that we have voted for to do a specific job. And yes, the federal court's going to agree. Why? Because they already have. You can't outright our vote. That's like saying, hey, we're going to vote for president or this person, but the establishment says they don't like the way we vote, so we're just going to do it this way. That's exactly what has happened. That is unconstitutional. And to help some of you guys out there, say, listen, man, I'm in the middle of a CPS case, and the judge ain't doing what they're supposed to. CPS ain't doing what they're supposed to. GAL isn't what they're supposed to, and all this other stuff. And I'm trying to fight pro se and this and that. I'm going to help you guys out. And I'm going to help you out with a great video. This guy does a wonderful job. And this is something you have an option to do when the court, and you're in the lowest court of the lowest court, you can still go to the Court of Appeals and file on that court for not doing their job. Well, here you go. This is what some of the different things here, folks.
Sometimes the problem is not the judge ruled against you. The problem is the court refused to act at all. That is where mandamus and extraordinary writs become weapons. Mandamus is not a regular appeal. It's an emergency-style remedy used when a lower court clerk or official has a clear legal duty and refuses to perform it. High-value targets, trial courts that refuse to rule, clerks that refuse to file your pleadings, courts that refuse to transmit the record, prosecutors or agencies creating discovery non-compliance while the judge let the case rot. The argument is simple. You do not have an adequate remedy by appeal because the damage is happening now. The court's refusal blocks your rights, your record, and your ability to defend yourself. Stop begging the court to do its job. Build the record, demand a ruling, and when they refuse, writ them up. Supreme decision. Sometimes the problem is not the judge ruled against you.
There it is, guys. Habeas corpus, mandamuses, writ of serotonin, all those things you can file. And anytime you're in the lower court, you're dealing with a family court judge and they're just running amok and you know this isn't right and you can articulate it and everything else, you file that to the higher court and say you're not. If the appellate court doesn't do anything about it, then you go to the federal court. That's your 1983. Now we have to file. Why? Because we're going to do this. And guess what? I'm going to do it on a constitutional question basis. Why? When you file and you notify the lower court or even the Court of Appeal, say you're still not doing it, now I'm going to interject a constitutional question. I have to notify the Attorney General. I have to notify the judge and the opposing party that's on there and the U.S. Attorney General. And then I file my 1983. What does that mean? You are now deadlocked. You can't rule. You can't this. You can't that. You can't do a damn thing. You have to freeze. But you cannot hold children indefinitely because that is considered kidnapping, because now we have a constitutional question. You must give them back. Why? Because what he's talking about is a due process violation. If there's a due process violation, you go through here, well, now all of a sudden we're going to disqualify the judge. Well, we're going to hear this again, and we're just going to put a different. No. You lost your chance. That's called double jeopardy, Jack. You screwed up, case dismissed. You don't do it, I'm filing in 1983, and I'm suing the hell out of everybody. Yeah, you can't keep going back into civil court and sue for the same thing over and over again, and neither can the state or CPS. Your case is dropped. You screwed it up. You dropped the ball. I want an immediate dismissal based on due process violation. You don't get another chance. See, there's the problem. Well, we replace our judge. No, dude, you got to file it as a due process. So this is a constitutional rights violation. But you got to articulate those things that happen as they happen. If you don't do that, how do you expect to get the remedies? That's why we tell everybody, record everything, file everything. Even if you see it in court, Your Honor, I'm just putting you on notice, or the court on notice. I will be filing everything on my behalf, or even after this. When the judges just let them stack up, don't rule on them, and keep having hearings. No, that's a mandamus. That's this judge must be removed. I've helped so many people do that, and there was so many people that don't damn listen every time, that then they jerk around, they play in the lower court. Well, I'm going to do it this way, or they get somebody else whispering in their ear over some bullshit. No. Where's your writ? Where's your mandamus? This should stop now. Well, we're going to try and do this, and we're going to take time to gather evidence. Nope. You put those in at the same damn time, and then you notify them you haven't got these things that you need or required to do. Full disclosure. You're supposed to turn over everything before we move forward in discovery. Everything. You can't withhold nothing. If not, you file the subpoena. Get it. And when they refuse it, hey, I've got a subpoena that hasn't been. How can I proceed in a case when I don't have discovery or anything else here, or this? You start pointing out all the stuff that not just what they're doing, but what they're not doing. I mean, come on, guys. I've gone through this several times. And, I've got a whole jar. Yes, I've got a whole jar of fucks. And let me tell you something. Right there you go. We're going to do a 2-fuck night. And everybody's going to turn around. And yes, that could be advertisement for Temu or Amazon or whatever to sell or whatever. Yeah, you can get those on there. That's called a jar of fucks. Once again, there's a fuck. Here, turn it this way. There's a fuck. And there's a fuck. Okay. Now, yes, they are. But once again, people are scared. And thank you, Carrie, for pointing that out, to go against the district courts. But you know what they're more scared of? You starting to talk to everybody else that's got cases or this and that, and you team up between that and the people in the past. That's what's scaring the shit out of them. You got to understand, you have a few select people that have power, that we, the people, have empowered them, and they've gotten away with stuff to where now they're doing shit unconstitutional. It ain't even supposed to be in that court. Why? Is not CPS a state entity? Yeah, so it's the state, right? Well, yeah. Well, dumbass. Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2 of the Constitution, all cases. There's no exception for CPS or anything else. And once again, going back to what SCOTUS says, the Constitution says what it means and means what it says. So when it says all cases where the state is a party, that includes all their subsidiaries, the federal court has original jurisdiction. Then why am I in fucking family court? There's one fuck. Gone. Don't give a fuck. But we do this. This is administrative. This is not a state. It doesn't matter. Is it a state entity? It's a simple yes or no answer. And yes, the answer is yes, it is. Then you're not supposed to be in this court. And if you go back to the history, back to the Federalist Papers, back to the conversation of when they were writing Article 3. Our founding fathers address it explicitly, which is why everybody that's had a CPS case has gone through it exactly like when I'm getting ready to scare the shit out of you and open your mind, that our founding fathers thought of this. The reason you don't have cases held in the state court with a statist thing, one, it's a bias. Two, it removes the ability of those sitting as government actors to join forces to go after a person or a group of people. Now, within that thing of our founding fathers, I believe it was Alexander Hamilton, was one of them, explicitly says this is so you don't. So who's the person or the group they're going after? The American family. Your job, you go after and you target the American family. Single moms, single dads, together, it doesn't matter. You're going after families. Your target group is families. You can't hear this case. This is why you're not getting your constitutional right, because if they actually had to go to a federal court, maybe 1%, not even 1% of their cases would even make it to federal court, even to a filing. They'd laugh their asses off when they filed with the way that they filed in family court. They would get laughed out of the federal courthouse, literally. A joke, because that's exactly what it is. Now, a lot of people are saying this and that. Well, Gunnar, why don't you, trust, attorneys or this or this or all these other people? Why? These are people that are licensed, practice law, have all these other things that they do. They collect money. They do this for business, but they also took an oath. Every single one of those lawyers, every single one of those judges and magistrates to uphold the Constitution. Then you tell me why you've been doing this for several decades, having cases like this, violating the Constitution to make money. Yeah, they don't like me. They pretty much hate me because that puts the entire family law profession at extreme risk as ineffective counsel in all 50 states. And CPS, the judges, the magistrates, the family law people, as criminals. Because especially you go digging a little deeper, did CPS take and apply for any type of Title IV funding or any type of thing of this, that? Get a subpoena, find out. Because if you did, you just defrauded the federal government and we the people. It's that simple, folks. Everybody's overthought it. We have to play this trick. No, we have to keep it simple. Voluntary placement of the jar. Well, the jar is right here, and trust me, yep, see, it says those are the fucks I have to give. Usually the jar, I try to put them in there and pull out what I can, but if you'll notice, yes, they're even waterproof to where they're a cork, to where even if they have to, you can put the cork in, throw it in the water, and it's still, my fucks are going to stay dry and they're not going to get wet. So we're going to have dry fucks. Literally. But guys, listen, man, you got to know your information. You got to know your rights, because if you did, and let alone other people that are standing by, you're watching somebody get shaken down or bullshit with the cops. And it's enough that it's unconstitutional, and you can identify it and say, listen, man, I'm going to go help that person. What do you mean? I'm not going to, screw that thin blue line stuff. Constitution first before anything. Well, this is for officer safety and this and that. Nope. Constitutional rights never bend for anybody's safety. Hate that for you. Guess you should have took a different job. But if you knew that, if you knew that case before CPS knocked on the door and then wormed their way into your house, sometimes with cops, sometimes without, you practiced your Second Amendment, you made that decision, they'd be scraping up people and they wouldn't be coming to your house. Well, what did you do? Show me the warrant. Show me the warrant. Well, Gunnar, they're going to take and do this if you do that, and then they're going to move it to a state case and a state thing, and then we're really screwed. Why? Because then the state's going to judge you. No, you're not, because if you allow the state to do that, you're a fool. You do a change in jurisdiction. This has to be federal. Why? Because you can't judge me if it deals with another state official. Once again, there's a bias. This is why this has to go to federal court. I can quote that, and there's my jurisdiction when I filed my 1983 to go in there of saying you must take this case. Under what? Their constitutional rights violation. It says right here in this case he was doing, what was he doing? What were they in the act of doing when you used your Second Amendment? Breaking into my home. That goes under even your own state cat. Then you can bring up your own state's castle doctrine. This is saying, well, they've got immunity, they've got this. No, they don't. Qualified immunity is gone when you commit a constitutional rights violation, and you can articulate it. Let alone you can ask them, where's the ink warrant? Where's it stamped, time stamped, everything else? Can you produce it right here, right now? Everything on camera, body cameras, everybody around, this and that. And I've got cameras, this, that. Other people got cameras. This is what screws them up. Show me the warrant. You better pull it up. No, not it's on my computer and anything else. That is not legal. Sorry, nice try. Well, I got arrested. Well, you should have pursued it and turned around and had it thrown out, because unless you have a wet ink signed by a judge, you get the original. When they show up, they better have the original in hand. Wet ink by the judge. Blue ink, not black. Ah, gotcha. Yeah, can't be black ink, can't be photocopy, can't be copy and paste. Why? Not the same thing. Got to have the court clerk's signature, stamp, time, the whole 9 yards, signature and a stamp to be a legal court document or warrant or court order. Well, show it to me. Well, I got a verbal court order. Yeah, I got something that comes out of the fucking air too that takes and splits your skull open if you want to pull that bullshit, because you cross that line, it's not legal. And according to this case law, I have a right to resist you even to the point of your death. Want to play fuck around and find out? See, somebody like me, it doesn't matter. Why? Because I've already got my death sentence. Yep. Congestive heart failure, less than 10% left in my heart. Already had the talk with my doctor. Better get your affairs in order. What do I have to lose? Nothing. But I sure as hell will ride your soul straight to hell for violating the Constitution and trying to take and come after me or my children. Try me. Because it won't stand with you, and I'm too damn smart. And that's what screws you up. And the problem is now I'm too damn popular. Well, Gunner, that makes you this, that, or this. No, well, you can't come after me anyway, you dumbasses. Why? I have a federal case filed against you. You can't. No jurisdiction, no power. You're stripped when there's a federal case. You'll have to get somebody outside. Bet you didn't know that. Hey, I filed on the whole police department. They're in my federal case and this and that. And I've got that. Guess what? Police department can't interact with you by law. That's called retaliation. And I don't give. Nope. That's it for the night. All out. If it's worth your life, please keep on. Well, I'm big and bad. I'm behind the badge. It don't mean that badge is that's a costume that you've programmed little kids when they went to public school that this is always a good person. You win this, and you're ever in danger. You don't say we always find a cop. Hell to the hell no. Let me tell you the person you go find that will protect your children. A veteran with a veteran cap, and you take and educate your children on that, or go find a biker. Has a club patch on it. I guarantee you they're safer than they are with the thin blue line cult, because they're going to look out for each other, not for the children. They never cared. Why? The first thing they'll say is, well, I got to do it for officer safety and this, that. Not violate my rights, you don't. No, hell no. We got to do this. You got a warrant? See, when you know your rights, you articulate them, and then you turn around, where's your body cam? Where's this? And say, Your Honor, I even asked where there's a body cam. Hey, get in front of the camera. There's one on the car that doesn't shut off. Get within screaming distance of that, towards the hood or anything else where it picks up that. Oh, I'm going to mute my thing. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. They're dirty as fuck. And you know who the biggest perpetrator of fucking children are? Go figure. Public officials. They are the highest number of offenders whether it's teachers, especially in Blount County, or other officials, school board members, police officers. You know how many police officers just in Blount and Knox County, and I'm here in Tennessee, just alone have been recently and are in the surrounding areas that have been recently caught with child pornography or raping of minors, and it's this and it's this and say, well, you can't judge a whole group on that. Oh no, man. Once one bad apple gets in there, the whole barrel's full of shit. Throw it out. It's no good. Anybody that's ever done, once again, they took that away from you too, to even teach that old saying. Because you knew it with fruit. You knew when you pick through it and you look through this, you got to pull out the bad ones and keep the good stuff in there. If not, that one bad apple will affect that whole damn barrel. You knew that. That was just basic science. Yeah, Carrie, there's over and over and over again, the stuff that we're hearing. Once again, we've taken something that's a piece of paper that is, and it literally says on what we call money, this is used to sell all debts, public and private, but it has no value. It's not even backed by gold. It's a trade paper. It's like me writing on a piece of paper like an IOU. It's worthless. And this is what we trade people for because you can get more junk. Something's wrong with you. You shouldn't even be in the position you're in. I mean, seriously, let alone the judges and magistrates. Hey, do you look at everything through a constitutional lens first? Well, I don't deal with constitutional issues. You're actually required to as an administrative law judge, and you took an oath. So if we've got a constitutional issue, whether it's criminal court or civil court, you must look at everything through a constitutional lens. This is the same training that should be going for anyone serving in law enforcement. Don't do something stupid. Know the Constitution, how it applies, and how it fits for the situations. You morons, well, we got policies and procedures and codes and all these other things we have to follow. No, you don't. Not if it's not constitutional, you dumbass. I mean, this is how ignorant. Let me get the dumbest damn people that don't even know. Well, once again, let's give a constitutional test to law enforcement. I'm going to tell you straight away, in my personal opinion, I'd say 60% or higher would fail a constitutional test. I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, that's a big question. Do you think law enforcement would face, if they were tested nationally, or anybody serving in government took a constitutional test, which I don't understand why this is not a requirement before they even serve or apply. You have to pass this test. But they don't give it. They don't do it. It would stop 90% of this. Here's a couple of questions. Do we live in a constitutional republic or democracy? Especially for politicians. Well, we have this great democracy. Nope, you can't serve. What do you mean I can't serve? We don't live in a democracy. You serve in these positions here and there, you better have 100% on that test. Bottom line, there's no ifs, ands, or buts, and the test rotates to where it's never the same. With at least 150 to 250, I would say at least questions that rotate. You know, in other words, that many types of variations of the test, at least 250 variations. That way it could never be, you're going to study all 250. Well, good. But do you know what it means? And then have an oral presentation in front of a panel, in front of people that are sitting, that have done it and know it, including the citizens, equal amount of citizens, questioning them on constitutional things. Hey, if you run up to this and this, what's going to be the thing you do? Well, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do, the policy and procedure. Well, what about constitutional rights? Because now you've got a problem. You haven't looked at things through a constitutional lens as you're required to do. You want officer safety? Start doing shit fucking constitutional. Maybe you won't take it and people won't hate you so bad. And a lot of it goes to your training and once again, this shows you how ignorant the upper people that run this stuff, because it's about control and it's not about doing things lawfully, but they'll try and say it's legal, but it's not lawful. Oh, trust me, Nicole, Jacksonville, Florida. Yeah. Lots of Florida. Florida's a damn mess. There's a lot of states that are just a damn mess, but listen, if you guys do your rights, especially in Florida, you started having people, next thing you know, you had a whole spew. Let's put it this way. If it made the news and one day, say CPS comes around, say, we'll say statewide in the state of Florida, I'm going to shoot not even give an accurate number, say 500. They do 500 home visits, this, and that, and come in and they do like they normally do, push their way in this. And then the person that's there decides, you ain't got no warrant, no court order, this and that, and you're reaching towards my kids, and I just blew both your heads off. What's going to happen? Well, they were here on a call. There was no reason, and they busted their way into their house. They don't have cameras. Where's their warrant? Oh, we got a problem. You know how many? See, this is why it started doing that, and they started bringing law enforcement. Well, that's okay. Law enforcement will make sure that we don't get shot. Law enforcement's breaking the law when they aid and abet you. So, actually, they aid and abet you. They're just as guilty under that ruling. Plummer versus United or versus the state turns around and says, "Oh no, you're just as guilty as they are. You aided and abetted in the crime. Where's your warrant? Where's your court order? Probable cause. Okay, well they have this. Well, Your Honor, we're not going to take their word for it. They have body cameras. Where's their body camera footage? Well, my thing was off. Well, then, Your Honor, we have a he said, she said. So unless you have to rule on my behalf. Why? Because the law says so. You can't take the state's word. It's their burden of proof to prove. Where's the thing? Where's the evidence? That's hearsay, Your Honor. Their word's not any greater than mine. Ooh, we're going down some mean trails. Yeah, with the more you know, the more you can articulate and go, show me this, show me that. If not, get me a higher authority of the set. Now, you produce this. Hey, I've got you in cuffs. I just took out a couple of people. Okay? Just broke into my home with no warrant or anything else. Now what's going to happen? Show me the warrant. Get me your supervisor, this and that, and you've got me in cuffs because, well, you just took it. No, I defended my home. Castle doctrine, bitch. I don't give a shit if they work for the state or this or that. That's gone. You better read the damn law because now you're looking at a false arrest. It's called self-defense. And no, it doesn't have to be done by a court. That's called your interpretation. If you come up, you can't pick me up and charge me if you know the crime is on a state official. You can't arrest me. It's called a proper investigation, you shithead. Here's the other thing. You threw the cuffs on me, didn't you? You arrested me. Did you bring me before a magistrate or indict me? Nope. Got another trouble because now we're going to federal court. Why? That's not the procedure. You can't arrest somebody. Has to go before a magistrate. You better look at the law. They do it all the time. Yeah. And look at Arizona. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm just going to play this clip. This is what's been going on. Arizona has reformed CPS 3 times. And this was the hearing that now they're looking to consider to terminating or abolishing CPS in Arizona. And this is some of the, here's some of the testimony. This was actually given on the floor of the Arizona Congress. And this is, once again, it's never been challenged. It's never been, took down. This is not quite, this is testimony. Here it is.
When did law enforcement relinquish their duties to protect and investigate crimes against children and hand those duties over to 20-year-old DCS workers with or without liberal arts degrees? DCS workers should not be conducting any kind of investigation, I'm sorry, against families. They are incompetent to do so. They insist their role is not a policing role. That's false. They act as police in what they call a non-criminal role, which is wholly unconstitutional. DCS, let them return to providing services to family in need. Stop their policing role and bring sanity back to the state of Arizona. Sheriffs and police departments, do your jobs. I've met many women who have been told by CPS, you better get that kid out of that house or you're going to lose custody. And then The abuser opens a case in family law, and the children are taken over, and DCS abandons them.
DCS should not be investigating anything. We have the stories, heart-wrenching, that we just heard. DCS has failed in the past in their investigations, as we all know. And for this bill to go through and this gives DCS more investigative authority, and they're not capable of what they have now going as far as investigations. Investigations should be left up to Department of Public Safety, the Office of Child Welfare Investigators, which both of those already exist, so it's not like we're inventing the wheel to get some.
The fact that they're taking on a policing role, or a role that is non-policing but still part of that, which means even though they're taking part of the investigation, which means they have to operate constitutionally, including the fact of having a court order, warrant, or anything else. Other than that, you have a public thing: do not knock, don't even answer the door. And when you go to the court and they try to file some stuff, hey, we tried to reach out to them, but they won't do this, or they won't do this, or they won't do that, I'm not obligated to comply. Once again, that's a Fifth Amendment violation. Okay, well, we want to talk to your children. Okay, so you're investigating me, right? Yeah. Okay, well, you can't do it on private property. That's a violation of the Fourth Amendment. There's case law on that. Doe et al. Versus Heck et al. Second off, if you're going to take them over here to, say, the Child Advocacy Center or this, that, and have a forensic interview done, where's their civil rights attorney? Where's their attorney? Has to be a civil rights attorney, not a family, not a GAL, not anything else. They need to be assigned an attorney that's familiar with juvenile constitutional rights to be qualified. Otherwise, it's ineffective counsel. Show me where it's at. Where's the attorney for the child? Well, we don't have to. There's nothing doing it. No, we don't have. I hate that for you, but the Department of Justice says yes, you do. And last time I checked, Department of Justice is over you. And their policies and procedures and everything else you have to follow because they're federal mandates, including things like constitutional rights of juveniles. Now, if you brought that up, saying there was no attorney, Your Honor, hey, we got a forensic interview, we're going to do this. Your Honor, I moved to, once again, your lawyers should know this. Your Honor, I moved to fucking exclude those things, or, suppress those things. Why? Because an attorney wasn't present when the child was questioned as required. Because children have Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights. The Department of Justice has already said this, it's here. So it's here or this, otherwise go away. And no, you're not getting a second chance. It's called double jeopardy. You brought me in here, you've lost your case. Have a nice day. File it under something completely different. Have a nice day. You can't do this. Dismissed. Your Honor, you should have known that. Your Honor, before I got here, before you did anything else or heard a complaint or anything else, you see the paperwork in front of you that says they did a home visit. They came into the home and this, that. The first question that judge or magistrate should have is, can you show me the warrant where it gave you the capabilities of coming into the home, let alone questioning the children? Do you know you're not supposed to question the children on private property? Do you realize it's a Fourth Amendment violation that also the Department of Justice says they do have? That means the DOJ is not going to cover your ass when I file criminal charges against you. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Yeah, you done messed up. Yes, GALs are a joke, and usually they take and appoint lawyers. Technically, GALs can be a friend, a family, or anything else, but once again, the court rolls over a lot of those things. But like I said, when it comes to, for you guys that are just tuning in and anything else, or you don't know about the federal case, yes, there's a case filing. So even though you have a thing right now, as soon as we get the decision from the federal court, go through the process and the constitutional question is answered, that would mean everything. And we're going to ask, once again, we're going to clarify within some of those things, that does that mean that all these cases are void? And the court's going to say yes. They never had jurisdiction to hear it, therefore it is void, or void ab initio. That means all the kids come home. Now, if you've had a criminal case, that's, once again, that's different. But once again, if there's constitutional rights done and they were the first ones to show up, you got fruit from a poisonous tree that you can argue in the federal court. Hey, I had a criminal case and they didn't throw it out under fruit from a poisonous tree. Why? When the investigators started, who showed up? CPS. What did they do? They pushed their way into the home. They coerced. They did it. Did they have a warrant or court order or anything else to do it? Nope. I'm here to do an investigation, or I got a complaint, and built from there. Guess what? Now you have a Fourth Amendment violation. It's fruit from a poisonous tree. Guess what? You file the right paperwork and the right thing and make the right argument. Guess what happens to that case? It's gone. Overturned. Well, we're not going to do this. Nope. This is a constitutional issue. The state doesn't have a right to hear things on constitutional rights violations, and the court knew about it and still didn't, which means they violated their judicial canons. Oh, wait. Yeah, states have judicial canons they must follow. You know what else they screwed up on? Constitutional canons. Why? They should have known. Should have known. Why? For you to sit in that seat and say, well, I didn't know. Hell no. Matter of fact, it says when the judge or magistrate, somebody really does, in those positions of authority, that there's a severe penalty to it. That if they take and go against the Constitution, and they know they're going against the Constitution, they were completely competent, to even sit, let alone like I said, in my case, there's no way they were competent because they broke so many they even violated the state constitution. They were so stupid. All of them. They were all in code, which is automatic RICO. You all ganged up on me together to not only violate my constitutional rights, but you violated the state constitution. You said I committed a felony and never been charged or indicted or this, that, but you're still going to punish me. Article 1, Section 14 of the Tennessee Constitution, no person shall be made to answer for a crime unless they are what? Presented, impeached, or presented, indicted, or impeached, which none of those ever happened. I wasn't even arrested. I wasn't even charged. The case didn't exist. And I'll give this at least to the investigators, when they realized they had no case, they just turn around and they're just like, yep, we don't see nothing. We don't have anything to go on. There's zero evidence. We have a hearsay or a coerced statement. Yeah, no kidding. Dropped it. CPS still picked up the ball. Then, because I went against CPS, yes, the district attorney of the area, when I went to report the crimes and everything else, and the sheriff's office to investigate the criminal aspects of the state workers, all refused to investigate the crime. Matter of fact, I was threatened and intimidated by the district attorney here that I'm going to have to do this, or if I'm going to say I'm going to do an investigation, but never did anything. Why? Because they canceled the appointment and never followed up, ever. It was a cover-up. But then the district attorney turns around, well, I haven't decided if I'm going to take charge you or do this. And you know what I did? I turned around and I dared him. I says, I fucking dare you. Charge me, bitch. And I'll fucking smack you with so much shit it'll make your head spin. Why? Because you got a Fourth Amendment violation. It's clear as fucking day. Produce the fucking warrant or shut the fuck up. You know what? Never heard from the district attorney again. Because I knew what I was talking about, and he was screwed. But he still failed to investigate the crimes that they did to get what they did. Well, now we're going to put that bastard, hopefully, in a prison cell, and he's going to find out what it's going to feel like. Because you know what? Yeah, you just violated your oath. You just violated the Constitution, failure to investigate a crime, all these other things. Now you're part of a mass cover-up. Oh, this doesn't look good for you, buddy. So they'll have a special little wing that you probably won't go to Gen Pop, but the only other place is the pedo wing, which means you're going to have to sit there and listen to all these damn perverts and everything else recollect, or we'll say relieve themselves, all while everything else and thinking of this and that. And anytime somebody says, well, I want a picture of this, yeah, you can't have those pictures in here. Why? Because now you're giving fuel for these pedos. Why? Pictures of your family, everything. Yeah, there's some sick bastards in there. Talk to a jailer. They'll tell you how sick these people are. It's just that messed up. But yes, even children that were adopted, because the courts had no jurisdiction. So yes, when that ruling comes down, which we know it will, because once again, what does SCOTUS say? The Constitution says what it means what it says. Well, we read it to you verbatim. right there. Now, is CPS a state entity or a subcontractor for the state? Yes, therefore it's the state. All cases where the state's a party, and if you look at your paperwork, it'll say your state department of this, this, that. That means the state's a party. They never had jurisdiction. You can't. You're biased, which is exactly what we're all running into. But yeah, that means they would have to come home, which means there has to be restitution. Now, you've touched on something, Nicole, I haven't talked much about. And because I'm a little indecisive in this, and I say this with reserve because I don't know. But there is a possibility that because they received money from the state, possibly the federal government, Title IV, that foster parents will be considered co-conspirators and part of kidnapping your children, housing them. Yes, it could fall under the federal code. That is up to the Department of Justice once this thing gets in full spin, which they know what's going on. That's why I've told people, well, President Trump just did all this stuff for, all these homes and everything else, and giving more money to foster homes and everything else. Who's to say that's for your children? You do realize once this all goes down, all these people that have kids, the attorneys, the judges, the magistrates, and everybody in CPS, they're going to look at criminal charges and crimes against children. They will lose their children. Did anybody pick up on that? Did you catch that one, Nicole? Or Carrie? Did you guys catch that? That means their kids are going away. Your kids are coming home. Their kids are gone. Why? There's a legitimate reason. They have crimes against children, multiple children. Because it's not just one case with the judge, how long you've been sitting on the bench that where you've adjudicated. You get a count for each one of those. That's why they hate me. That's why they hate the reckoning. That's why they hate this movement. That's why they hate everything that's gone on. That's what, even Jessica, Late knew about that when we had several conversations. There is a hope of coming home. We have to get through this. Yes, there is hope. Why? Now you go get your kid. Why? Because it's void. Here's this ruling. All cases where the state was a party and CPS cases in all 50 states, null and void. Go get your kids. Even if it means, and I'm going to say, and I'll say it now because they got to know where we're going to stand. Even if it means by force, because I'm going to, what? It's void. You now have my children and you don't have the authority to keep them. Federal court overturned it. Now I go get my kids, and guess what? I'm going to find out everybody's name, and I'm going to sue everybody, including all those people that were taking those kids for foster care and everything. That's your choice. See how it flies. I'm not sure. Oh, they know they're going down. Matter of fact, that was one thing that I was having a discussion with somebody that this whole thing with citizenship and everything else, the reason certain people are fighting for citizenship, especially with people that are not legally able to be here, or the birthright and some of those other things that we needed to redefine, that was because the first thing they would do, oh, well, you had a baby. You're both illegal. Oh, well, we're not going to do here in what we used to call the anchor baby syndrome is what it used to be called. Well, we're going to deport you, but we're going to keep your kid because the kid's an American citizen. Now we're going to put him through the foster care system. That's how they were getting them. Deport mom and dad, keep the baby and put the baby over here. We don't need the mom and dad. That no longer works. Well, that solved that problem. No more other people here. Some people would keep, some people would. But that's how they were getting these kids crossing the border. No parents, no aunts, no uncle. They were just shipping them across the border. Just walk across the border. No parents. What do? Go right into the system. No, send them back over the border. Not my problem. Well, that's not humanitarian. That's called security of borders, which was a big topic that it ran crazy. When they ran out of those kids and all these other laws changed where they started taking and deporting them, this and that, CPS hit a panic. Holy shit. What are we going to do with this and that? Matter of fact, let me tell you another scam for this thing with illegals that this story hit home here this week. Somebody did an in-depth report and I looked at it and confirmed it, that we actually have people of Latino descent, possibly illegals, in our county jail that also does federal subcontracting. And they're listing these people of Latino descent as white, because it's the first thing that they do in the quick scan is we look at people that are black or this or this or that. Those are and they do this demographic scan, and anybody that I've talked to says this is the first thing that they go through. Well, is it this? These are quick things, big search engines. Well, they found a way around it. We'll just label them as white so we can keep the money and still keep them in jail. And they don't give a shit. Why? Because it's better than where they came from. 3 squares a day and let alone these are criminals. No, send them back over. They were criminals when they came here. They should have been sent back because they're criminals. But they keep having, and this is why these stories come up all the time of these people crossing the border multiple times illegally and not stopping them, and then raping and pillaging or murdering or this. That's got to stop. It shouldn't be like that. We need to worry about the safety and security and the constitutionality of this. And to think somebody else, we get the Constitution. Well, somebody comes here, they have constitutional rights. No, you dumbass, you're from another country. You have to live under their rules, unless you're here seeking asylum. Constitutional rights don't apply to you. They apply to the citizens, we the people, not the people that came over here illegally. There's a difference between legally, lawfully, and everything else. In other words, to come here and get those protections, you have to swear off all allegiance to any other country. Then you get them. And now I'm going to answer that question that I think one of you guys had as far as the baby and everything else. Listen, guys, if you got a baby coming and CPS has messed with this, and that, you need to look into what is called trust law very fast. Set up a trust, roll that unborn child into that trust immediately. When they come in, you can't deal with it, especially if you're dealing with something of a trust that's internationally, you can't. There are several there, and if you look into this, I'm sure you guys have heard of the different trusts. Talk to a trust, somebody that's familiar with trusts, and get that done. Put your kids in that. Call them this, and that. And then the other thing is, when your children are born, whatever you do, this and that, you tell them you do not want their feet stamped until, because you have a religious principle that you wish to do. Now, what are you talking about, Gunner? Go get you those trays that's got the clay, for their feet or their hands. Take some dirt out of your garden, work it in there. Before it touches that paper, touch the feet there. You now have evidence that your child has touched soil, American soil, before it hit the paper as an incoming shipping manifest. Hospitals or ports is what they legally consider them. Here's a port. Stamp your thing. Here's the port that it has been received at this port. No. You don't get ownership. That's been the loophole for some of that. You want to end all that? No, my child touched American soil. That person is a federal citizen, not a state. My child will do this, that. Matter of fact, we're going under religious. If you do any of this, I will sue you to death for a violation of my religious beliefs. You have to respect those, especially in a hospital, because I guarantee you don't. I go straight to my convention or anything else, and some of these are very large people. My people will ban your hospital and anybody connected to your network. There's power, and religious groups do it all the time. And when you wave that flag of religious things, and especially get on board, some of the largest religious organizations in the world step up, especially the Catholic Church has stepped up several times on that. Nope, that's a religious principle that is covered by their First Amendment 100%. And the archdiocese and everybody else will stand up and they will write letters. They will do and reach out to politics. Oh, hell no, this won't happen. The Catholic especially, they kind of covered their own. They always have, especially in government. There's always been that kind of relationship. But when it comes down to it, it's just that simple. Put your child's feet on dirt. They touched them. I have proof. What do you mean? This was done here. Videotape it. Picture it, the whole thing where you stamp the feet and you go on and say, this is a religious right. And you notify the hospital in writing before that baby is done. Then you turn around, you can notify them, this baby is in trust. What does that mean? It means your CPS cannot interfere. They do not, it is not owned by any, this belongs to me. It belongs to the trust. I'm just a trustee. When you deal with that, states can't deal with trust. It's federal court. Well, we're going to go to federal court. What do you mean? I'm going to do a change jurisdiction with it. This is a trust. You don't deal with trust law. This is the federalized trust law. Matter of fact, it deals with a whole nother country. Now we're in international stuff. You got a problem. Wait, what? That's why a lot of people will put their children down as dual citizenship. They won't mess with them. Why? Because I can go to the consulate and turn around and say, you're trying to kidnap a German child or this child, that. Why? Mom's this and dad's German, the other one's this and that. They have dual citizenship. They're born with it. They don't mess with those kids. They can't. It'll trigger a international incident. It possibly could, I should say. But yeah, the consulates get involved and everything else. Now you got a problem, and they don't play like some of the tribal nation bullshit. And the reason the tribes ended up quit protecting people and everything else, because the more people they can shed, the greedier those bastards can get. Not all of them, but some of them, because it's about that damn casino money. It's back to the money. But a lot of those times they don't take care of the people, but then they're forced to share it with the people to where, yeah, once again, I'm very familiar with it because I know several people that are part of tribes. And some that even get, checks, when they live on the res and everything else. Yeah, they can get part of a fund. And there's others that get part of another fund and set it up and they live, on the outside world. The children especially. But there's a lot of things that go with it, but there's a lot of treaties and everything else. But you got to know that and know how to articulate, look it up once again, be able to argue it, not just put it on paper. Remember, you've still got arguments in court. Okay, paperwork's the most important things, but those oral arguments, and not so much the state court because it's a damn joke. It's just one of those things. 90% of it's on paper. Deal with it. Rule on it. We're not going any further till you rule on it. Otherwise, you can kiss my ass. Well, I'm going to find you in contempt. Well, now you can really kiss my ass. Well, I'm going to find you in contempt and put you in jail. No. Well, where's the jury? Well, I don't know this. Well, you better look at SEC versus Jarsky because it limited that power. Without the jury being here, you can't find me in contempt of dick. You can't put fines on me. You can't this, you can't that. Anything for acting up here. Where's my jury? SEC versus Jarsky. I'll have you removed from the fucking bench. Matter of fact, I'll be filing a report when I leave. You put me in handcuffs, I'll have you put in for false arrest. That's a lot of that stuff happened, especially during that case, if you followed it, in Louisville, Kentucky, where the judge overstepped this and overstepped. Nope, can't do that. You can't do that. Well, I'm going to do my own independent thing. I have the ability. And you listen for him to turn around and use stupid words, especially you listen. And you listen to him turn around. Well, I have the discretion, especially family court or anything else. It's up to my discretion, this and that. Objection, Your Honor. What is it now? And you turn around and say, well, Your Honor, under the Chevron doctrine's dead. You don't get that ability anymore. All you can do as the lowest court is be the bitch for the higher courts and go with their rulings. So you have to go back to your little room, compare my case to other cases, and you have to rule the same way consistently as the higher court said you must. You're their bitch. Chevron doctrine is dead. You must. Have a nice day. And they flip out. Oh, if you don't, I'm going to put it in the mandamus or the writ. We'll go to the appellate court because I'll jack you up. You want to dismiss this now? Or you want to continue on? Why? Because I got no problem putting you in jail and I'll empty everything you got. Your bond, your personal, everything. I don't care if you roll it in trust because you know what? There's a loophole for people that do stuff in government when you try to do that bullshit. Well, I'll cover it and I'll roll it over in trust. And that. You can't do that. Nice try. Because you receive those monies for what? Doing government work. That doesn't apply. You better read the codes. There's codes on trust and everything else. Well, I was told, yeah, from other people, from some of these other things, but when it comes to that, no, you can't. Those were wages. You better look at what it says. You were paid this and compensated for doing this, and that's not immune. Once again, hiding money. That's how all these judges get in trouble, for hiding that and other donations and other things and offshore accounts. You can't do that shit. That's why they get in trouble. But guys, on a lighter note, like I said, as far as Jessica Lay, when I talked to her, I knew some specifics about her case. And like I said, I'm not going into great detail. I do know that one of the things she expressed to me is how alone she was and how her family turned on her because they didn't agree with this, that, or whatever it was. And their son, her son was taken from her. Great kid. But like I said, she fought and just felt like there was no hope. Guys, there's hope coming with this case. And you guys, I need your help. and if anything, to spread that. But also, if you follow me on Facebook or TikTok and you guys are watching the show or watching it later, because this is, once again, you can go back and see old shows on YouTube. And I do upload this to Spotify. So if you miss something on the show, you can go on Spotify, because as soon as it's done, I download the audio part of it and I upload it to Spotify. So you guys can have that for Spotify if you're driving or this or that, and share it. The idea is to get that information and have that help. But guys, we've got a real shot. What I'm telling you is this is not a guarantee, once again, because it's the courts. We hope they'll do the right thing. We know how they should rule. But once again, I've heard a lot of people, you're not going to get in. You're not going to do this. This isn't done right. I says, of course, it's not done according to the legal way. I didn't file as a lawyer. I filed as pro se sui juris. And everybody goes, what do you got to know what that means too, Your Honor. I filed sui juris as one of we the people. I'm not just here on behalf of myself. I'm here on behalf of we the people of my state, of this country. I'm here to do this. And when you do that and ask the constitutional question, that's why when those questions are answered and filed a particular way, they stand alone. The rest of the stuff that happened to me, it's open and shut. I don't have trouble proving it. It's as clear as the bell, the criminal shit that they did. And, they think, good old boy system, this and that, they're going to get away with it. But that whole system here in Blount County, Tennessee, has been falling apart, hasn't it, boys? You've just been ripped. And then you're getting tight-lipped. And then now everybody's getting nervous because they're wondering if they're going to get caught up in your bullshit that they thought they had your protection, but now they're starting to question it. More people are coming forward and revealing this and revealing this and revealing that. Yeah, all sorts of the dirty secrets and everything else. And you know what? You could go after Jessica Saxon all you want. And I know probably they're sitting here and watch this going, oh, well, this guy. Nope. Good luck. And here's why. Because the judge I drew was appointed by the Trump administration first round. And it's all about constitutionality. And when you watch how this guy performs, this judge, and you can look into those things, how they rule, the way that he's extremely conservative, just like he's going to follow SCOTUS. Why? Because he has to. Chevron's dead. We got to file the thing. We know what it says. Now, of course, they'll probably be stupid trying to appeal it. No, we're going to go to SCOTUS on this. We need to look at all the constitutional questions. We don't feel they got them right. I'm dead nuts. Once again, the Constitution isn't up for debate. It's absolute. It means what it says and says what it means. Matter of fact, SCOTUS, didn't you say that? Matter of fact, I'm quoting sitting SCOTUS members in my work to let the court know I'm fully aware. And that scares the shit out of them. Oh, this guy knows it. Why? Because I'm not a lawyer. There's certain things you can do as a sui juris, as one of we the people, if you really know what you're doing, which we're supposed to. Do you realize we weren't supposed to have attorneys or lawyers or anything else? We were supposed to be competent and a well-informed citizen. How can people serve in all these other things if you're not a well-informed citizen on your constitutional rights, let alone we've got people that are sitting in government actors, all the way from elected officials, congressmen, senators, all these other things, to people that serve on law enforcement or judges or anything else that don't have a damn clue what the Constitution says or how it applies in the real world today. How the hell did they get that job? We need to start testing and holding these people accountable. So this, that's the solution. Eliminate all of them, replace them. Now, guess what we're going to do? Now we're going to have a test. And until they passed the bar exam, I don't give a shit. We need to have a panel where it goes before we the people and rotated, as well as, other people, law professors that are in that state. What does it mean? This is what it says. This is what SCOTUS says. And we're going to make sure that you do it appropriately. And this is the rules. Not you get this freedom to do this. That's dead with Chevron. And they still hasn't sunk into their thick damn skulls. Well, guys, like I said, love on each other. Send a word of support out to everybody, man. I mean, show a little love, show us some support, because you never know what somebody's going through or what's going on in the and this is something we're encouraging those people that are encountering CPS. You're not alone. and no, this is normal, and no, you're not a bad person, no, you're not a bad parent. It's a corrupt organization. So now we need to come together, as the people say, we only need a certain percentage, and then we will be heard. It only took 3% to start the American Revolution. And we've got more than that with parents that have been done wrong for decades, let alone military families that have been done wrong. You want to go toe to toe when it comes to this type of stuff. The last thing you want to do is mess with our veterans, especially their children and or their grandchildren. Because let me tell you something, there's a brotherhood there that even guys that don't have that stuff, they'll step in, or they've never been affected, they'll do it just because their brother's going through it because of that oath. And you are sadly mistaken. You think it's going to stop, because we the people are pissed and we're done with this. And it's showing all over this country, the return to the Constitution. Guys, welcome to the reckoning. Pass those words. And if you guys follow me on Facebook, TikTok, you watch the show or a little bit later, send me a message if you want to help out, because we've got something we're working on the case to collect some evidence, but it's a large project, and it's a simple project. One, getting affidavits of truth together for all you guys that, you know, the parameters there, I can send it to you. Keep within the parameters for the affidavit of truth. It's simple. Fourth Amendment violations coming in and out of the home with no warrant, no court order by an Article 3 judge. And it says, well, I don't know if it's Article 3. Look up the judge that signed whatever the court order to do what it is, and then they came in your home and see whether they're Article 1 or Article 3. If they're not Article 3, that order's null and void. They can't come in the house. Why? Because it's the only court permissible by the Constitution to make those decisions on the Fourth Amendment. They're very clear on that. You can't do that. So let's go through that, encourage that. Second off is videos. Anything that's on Facebook, TikTok, the videos where he has first person and it shows violations of their coming in, their no warrant, no court order, trying to coerce their way in, or law enforcement for intimidation. It's all in there. I can send you the details. Nicole, hit me up. Just send me a DM on Facebook. We'll get together on that, and I'll give you the parameters. And then just build your own teams, and it's got emails to send everything else in. We've got some help. They're going to help us kind of sort through this and organize some of it. Some good personal people. Like I said, we do have a small team that deals with this, because once again, this is too much to take on. Something this big is not just a one-person job. And I'll tell you what, I enjoy every bit of my team. They're extremely professional. They're very well versed in what they do and how they do. And a big shout out to everybody that's on the team. But once again, this benefits everybody, because as soon as this goes in, this also leads the way for all you guys to start filing your federal cases and winning them using mine as established precedents and case law. Hey, they've already ruled on this. Now I'm suing them because the same thing happened to me. It will bankrupt the states, and they're going to have to do something. And this is where I see martial law or the federal government stepping in as we remove all those people from the state and redo this thing and make it constitutional. Get back to where we were originated from. That's our goal. I want to live constitutionally. I want to live free, and I want everybody else to fuck off and stay out of my pocket. It's just that simple. If I haven't hurt anyone or damaged anybody's property, which is criminal, or if it's civil, I've damaged property, that's civil, fuck off. I'm not going to deal with this. I'm not going to deal with that. And now, no more. But thanks, guys. Check us out again next week at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook Live, everything else. Have a great week. And don't forget to piss somebody off with your knowledge.
The truth cannot be silenced. Justice will be done.
I'm gonna pull the whole thing down. I'm gonna bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's gotta be biblical.
Thoughts are gone, thoughts don't care. Ghosts in my head, thoughts that tear. F941239 branded on my file before I was 5 years clear. They all said the same shit. Better not tell, kid, it'll get way worse in here. Even the real kids whispering threats while their parents steer. Born in a folder, no crib, just a case number and a hearing date. Pills crushed in my juice, respiratory waves turning toddlers into a court case. F943 anxiety, F90 poesio separation, ink they used to label me. Now the same codes turned into calibers, letters load the AR-15. 5156 for the panic attacks, 9 for the snakes, 223 for the mess they made. Leave me alone. Mrs. Perfect Christian home, still feel your husband's hands on my neck. Leave me alone, night shift worker, keys rattling while you're proud the heart. Leave me alone, caseworker with the crocodile tears. You got paid while I starved through it all. Starved through it all. We the invisibles, aged out the system. No feelings left, just facts and mathematics. Hypervigilant, heart rate flat, rifle fluent, pistol fully automatic. Grown now, pulling up, packing. Only lesson we kept is right from wrong. Now wrong, getting corrected. 30-round hymns in a real dark song. You built a monster, set in trauma, now the monster got drums and a mask. Every face got a name got an address. Every address getting dead. Everyone fresh meat. Still crying for mama, think reunification real. Level 2, bounce like trash. Learning roles in every house they make you feel. Level 3, chameleon bag, never unpacked. Visible just enough to eat. Level gray, master read a lie in the blink. Route around rules in the street. Level 5, invisible state. On ghost file too thick for any worker to read. Sleeping fragments, exits mapped. Made it out so low they know you a different breed. We the invisibles, age out the system. No feelings left, just facts and mathematics. Hypervigilant, heart rate flat, rifle fluent, pistol fully automatic. Grown now, pulling up, packing. Only lesson we kept is right from wrong. Now wrong, getting corrected. 30-round hymns in a real dark song. F94 through a 5 pop 6. F93 to a full auto switch. F94 to reactive.